The London Underground, an engineering marvel and a cultural icon. Every day, nearly 5 million journeys are made across its 11 lines and 272 stations, making it one of the busiest metro systems in the world. However, for millions of passengers, using this vital service feels like paying a premium for something that should be an essential public utility. A single journey between zones 1 and 6 during peak hours can cost more than some short-haul flights. A weekly travel card, over £70. Does that seem fair? Why do we accept such high costs for something as basic as getting from point A to point B? In comparison, cities like Berlin, Paris, and Tokyo boast significantly more affordable public transport systems. The gap between London's fares and those of other major cities raises an important question. Why is public transport in London so expensive, and what factors have shaped this situation? Could we do better? Let's unpack the complexities of this issue, from historical decisions and policy failures to the ongoing challenges created by fragmentation and the pressure of rising operational costs, and explore potential solutions for creating a more equitable and sustainable system. The history of public transport in the UK. To understand today's costs, we need to take a step back in time. The first major step in the evolution of the UK's public transport system occurred in 1863 when the London Underground opened as the world's first metro system. It was a revolutionary idea, making urban travel faster and more accessible. But unlike many other countries that developed centralized state-run systems, the UK's approach to transport has always been fragmented. Do you think this fragmented approach is helping or hindering the system today? The privatization of British Rail in the 1990s set the stage for this, breaking the national rail network into a series of private operators, leading to inconsistencies in service and rising costs. The London Underground, however, remained publicly owned but experimented with private partnerships for upgrades and maintenance. The Public-Private Partnership, PPP, seemed like a promising way to modernize the system without placing the full financial burden on taxpayers. However, by 2010, it had failed miserably, leading to spiraling costs, delays, and unmet targets, ultimately abandoning the model. The aftermath? A network that's partially modernized but weighed down by debt, relying heavily on passenger fares to stay afloat. What's the long-term cost of this reliance on fare revenue? Can we continue to expect passengers to foot the bill for a system that's supposed to be publicly accessible? Fragmentation and complexity. The UK's transport system is a patchwork of operators, policies, and pricing structures that create inefficiencies and frustrate passengers. While the London Underground itself is relatively well integrated, the broader network suffers from fragmentation. How many times have you experienced confusion when trying to figure out your ticket options? In London, for instance, the pricing for single journeys changes depending on when you travel, which zones you cross, and the method of payment. Peak hour pricing, for example, can add extra costs to an already expensive commute, and ticketing options like contactless cards, Oyster cards, and paper tickets only add to the confusion. For tourists, navigating the zones and understanding the pricing structure is an even greater challenge. This fragmentation doesn't just inconvenience passengers, it also drives up administrative costs for operators, which ultimately get passed on to consumers. Is there a simpler way to make the system more transparent and affordable? Streamlining the fare structure could lead to a more efficient and user-friendly experience. International comparisons. So, what's working better in other cities, and why can't London do the same? Tokyo. The Tokyo Metro, while incredibly efficient, is heavily subsidized by the government and also generates non-fare revenue from retail spaces and stations. This diversification of income allows the city to keep fares lower without sacrificing quality. Could a similar model work in London? What if retail and corporate partnerships helped offset transport costs? Paris. Paris stands out with its innovative payroll tax on businesses that helps fund public transport, ensuring that ticket prices stay affordable. This approach aligns the benefits of public transport with the businesses that rely on it. Would this kind of tax be acceptable in London? Could businesses be convinced to contribute to the cost of commuting? Berlin. Germany has introduced a €49 monthly pass, offering unlimited travel across all regional and local transport networks. This pricing structure provides a clear, consistent cost for commuters, making it a practical and affordable solution. Could London adopt a similar model? What would it take to create a flat rate pass for the whole city? These cities treat public transport as a public good, with substantial government investment ensuring affordability and long-term sustainability. Shouldn't London do the same? After all, isn't affordable and reliable public transport a key component of a sustainable urban future? The funding gap and fare dependency. In London, fare revenue makes up over 70% of transport for London's operating income. This is one of the highest fare dependency rates in the world. Is this sustainable in the long term? What happens when ridership drops, like during the COVID-19 pandemic, when the system faced a dramatic revenue shortfall? During the pandemic, TfL required emergency government bailouts to stay afloat, but these came with stringent conditions, including fare hikes that only burdened passengers even more. The reliance on fare income has left the system vulnerable to economic shocks and has made it harder to invest in the infrastructure that could improve service and reduce costs in the future. Contrast this with cities like Berlin or Paris, where subsidies cover a significant portion of transport operating costs, ensuring that passengers aren't solely responsible for the financial health of the system. Would this model work in London? If government subsidies helped offset the costs, could fares be reduced without sacrificing service? The human impact. For many Londoners, the high cost of public transport isn't just an inconvenience, it's a barrier to accessing opportunities. How many of us have had to make sacrifices in other areas of life just to cover the cost of commuting? Low-income workers, in particular, are hit hardest, facing tough choices between long commutes to affordable housing or higher transport costs for living closer to work. The strain of high transport costs doesn't just affect people's wallets, it affects their lives. Families are forced to make difficult decisions about spending on food, healthcare, and education. The lack of affordable, reliable transportation perpetuates cycles of disadvantage, making it harder for people to escape poverty and secure stable employment. How much of an impact do you think affordable transport would have on social mobility in the UK? Solutions and the path forward. The path to improving the UK's public transport system is clear, but it requires bold reforms and a commitment to long-term solutions. Some of the most promising ideas include renationalizing railways. Returning the rail system to public ownership could foster better coordination, greater investment in infrastructure, and a stronger focus on passenger needs rather than profits. Would you support this change? What benefits or challenges do you foresee? Flat rate fares. A simplified, flat-rate fare system could make public transport easier to navigate and more affordable. How much simpler would your daily commute be if you knew exactly how much you'd pay every time? Monthly fare caps. Introducing fare caps for regular commuters could prevent excessive costs, ensuring that those who rely on the system aren't financially burdened. Would this make your travel more predictable and manageable? Increased government investment. Finally, the government must invest more in transport infrastructure to ensure a future where London's transport system is efficient, affordable, and accessible for all. Where should the government's focus be? Expanding coverage, improving service frequency, or enhancing the overall travel experience? These reforms may seem ambitious, but they are necessary to create a fairer and more sustainable transport network for everyone in London. A call for change. The London Underground and the broader UK transport network play a crucial role in the lives of millions, but the high costs and inefficiencies are making it increasingly difficult for passengers to access this essential service. Are we ready for a change? The question isn't just why public transport is so expensive, it's what we're willing to do to change it. Will the UK commit to a fairer, more sustainable system that serves the needs of its people? Or will passengers continue to pay the price for a system that fails to prioritize their needs? What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on how to create a transport system that works for everyone. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the bell icon.